Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
Hello, welcome to the Season 7 Summer Series. Season 7 Summer Series.
Caesar 7 Summer Series. Caesar 7 Summer Series.
For siblings today, we're going to use all S words. Siblings in summer. What in the world? The kids fight all the time. We hear that from parents all the time that, oh my goodness, our kids are fighting. They're not used to being around each other. Some parents say their kids really get along, but a lot of parents talk about how, man, summer is the time for sibling fighting. And so we're going to teach you how to teach your kids how to fight today in summer. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Teaching your kids how to fight. Maybe how to fight clean. How about that?
Fight.
So
reality is they are going to fight because more time together equals conflict, because each little selfish, sinful personality rubs up against the other selfish, sinful personality. And with our siblings and with our family, that we're the most comfortable. And so, of course, conflict is going to happen. And so what if I were to tell you conflict is good? And so I know we think, no, conflict is bad and we need to dissolve conflict. And we do. And we need to, fix it and, resolve it and all the things. And yes. But where conflict is good is what it does is it shows us the ugly. It shows us where things need to be tweaked or fixed, where maybe there's a character flaw or a weakness there, or a selfishness or something. It just brings to the surface what's going on. And that's what we get to work on as parents, especially in summer.
And if you are new to Crazy Cool Family, you may not know this. If you're been with us a while, you may know this, but we talk a lot about sibling relationships. And we have lots and lots of materials on sibling relationships. You can go, if you want to go deeper on this topic than our podcast, our Crazy Cool Family guide to building family relationships. It has a whole session on siblings as best friends. We've got a whole video course behind that. If you buy the guide, you get a free video course with it. We even have a book, 5 Keys to Stop Sibling Fighting. So many resources. If you want your kids to get along and to be best friends, then Crazy Cool Family is a great source. And we're just going to tap into some of those today and talk about how specifically in the summer you get your kids. And we even have a couple of podcasts. We were pulling up the archives, and number 18, if you go back to podcast number 18, it's
back in the very, very beginning.
It's featuring Madeline and Macy. They're probably about 7 years old at the time. No, not quite 7, but they're
an oldie but a goodie is what we say.
Yeah, but it's and then also number 243 also features Madeline, and it talks about getting your kids to invest in one another. So those are 2 other related podcasts. So many resources if you want to go deeper on this subject with Crazy Cool Family. But today, let's talk about summer fighting between siblings. How do you want to kick us off, Suzanne?
Well, I guess just to think about the question, what do you do when your kids are consistently fighting? And it leads to damaging that relational line of those siblings. And I know for me, it damaged my relationship with them as well, because it would bring out the mama bear in me. Like as the mom, I could not tolerate. There was a lot of things I could tolerate, but I could not tolerate when they were not nice and kind and polite to each other. And I would say that there were seasons that they were more not nice and kind and polite than they were.
Yeah, and let's face it, our kids are different. They have different personalities. We've had definitely seasons, summers where 2 particular kids were not getting along because, maybe they were different in age, maybe they were jealous of each other, maybe there was personality conflicts, and it seemed impossible to get them to quit fighting. Everything. Maybe they're little and they're selfish 2-year-olds and a 5-year-old.
I want that.
Yeah, and I want that right now, is what our 2-year-old granddaughter says sometimes. But I think that, but yet in all of this, there are ways you can help them to get along, and you can incentivize them. You can help them see things, and it really does bring, if you're intentional, which we talked about last podcast, just being intentional for summer. What's the intentionality? Think about the lines between your siblings, between your kids, their sibling relationships. Which ones need work? And how are you going to attack that this summer? Because they do get to spend a lot more time together than normal. So maybe there's ways to work on that.
Yeah. And so just to answer the question, what do you do when they're constantly fighting? And so, I mean, one of the things that we would do is we would divide and conquer, if you will. And Don would take one and he would talk to one and I would talk to one, and we'd try to get to the bottom of it. What's going on? What is it that you do and don't like about your sibling? We would start to build ways for them to rethink about their sibling. Oh, she's so obnoxious. She's so annoying. She drives me crazy. She's just got so much energy, and I wish she would just, quit and be quiet. And so we would try to flip their thinking into, what do you like about them? What is a good character quality? And so we were doing is we were hoping to take that sibling and change the way they see their sibling, to see it differently, because we would say her friends love her. Her friends love to hang out with her. And so what would it take for you to love her and hang out with her? And honestly, it worked. And now they're the best of friends. I mean, they hang out with each other, those sisters, because the older sister did change her thinking about the little sister.
But it took a while. And there were definitely some summers when they were, when one was 12 and one was 8, that it was difficult. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so let's recognize the fact that sometimes these things are going to be difficult. Sometimes it's going to feel
difficult. So what do you do about it?
Sometimes you feel like it's not working. But one of the things we find is most kids love their siblings, but they don't like them, and sometimes. And so what that means, what I mean by that is, when you ask them, do you want the best for your younger sibling or older sibling? Yes, I do. I don't want if somebody else says something to them, they're going to defend them. But but they annoy each other. And so appealing to their love and the greater good of those, of the kid, like for example,
that's good
for an older child to say, man, don't you want the best for your younger sister? I do. Yes, but she's so annoying. Okay. You realize, how valuable you are to her. Your opinion of her is so important. And, because we really saw in our kids where the sibling relationship was damaging to them. It was hurting their self-esteem. It was hurting their countenance. And so we really had to attack it, or it was going to hurt the kid. Yeah. And so part of that is just seeing like what's at the heart of the sibling conflict. So often we tend to talk about the surface issue. Give me that toy. You're not going. But literally, the toy is just a symptom. What's the underlying thing in their heart? Maybe they are jealous, or maybe they are frustrated. Maybe they feel like that you give that other child more attention. Sometimes asking those questions can be really helpful in getting to the heart of what's happening.
Yeah, and so summer is a super sweet time for us as parents to kind of watch the interaction of those kids. And so if you've got a couple kids that have conflict, watch them and see what it is that's happening. Like, is one kid picking on another kid, is one kid being a brat or a pest, or is to kind of pay attention and see what's going on, and then speak into that, bring darkness into light. Hey, did you know that you were being a pest to your brother? Do you realize you just kept poking him over and over again, and he hated that? Wouldn't you hate that if I poked you? And just bring it to the surface, because I think so many times little kids interact with little kids in a little kid way. But if we can bring some perspective into it and show the little kid, listen, nobody wants to be poked. Nobody wants to be treated like that. And so what can you do? I know you just want to play with your brother. What could we do differently? And so as parents, once again, in summer, to use this time where we talk about teaching your kids to fight well, to give them the words to say, hey, brother, will you go play with me? Hey, can we do this? And can we play this? And show them how to get along, because a lot of the times they just don't know. They don't know.
Yeah. What if, summer is kind of a laboratory? Because during the school year, there's not as much time that your kids spend together because they're in school, unless you're homeschooling or whatever. But but summer can be a laboratory to build relationships. Think about, okay, so let's say you have a difficult kid relationship, maybe an older daughter and a younger daughter. And so maybe you should just think about it and talk about it with your spouse if you're married and say, hey, we're going to set a goal this summer that by the end of the summer, this relationship's going to be better.
Yes, I love it.
And we're going to have a laboratory. We're going to have, and so like, for example, we would put our kids, and so we would put our kids together. Maybe, hey, today for an hour, 12-year-old and 8-year-old, you're going to play this, and we're going to put together, and then after that, we're going to go get some ice cream, or we're going to go have lunch or whatever. And but right now we're going to do this, and I love what you said about giving them words. For example, the older sibling, you may need to say, okay, I know that she can be bratty, but what can you do to include her? And then to the 8-year-old, it's like, you don't get to be a brat. Go in there and teach them how to go in there and play well and to honor her sister, and then see what happens. And if it comes out, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it comes out and they haven't pulled each other's hair out, then say, hey, that was awesome.
Yes.
Great. Let's reward that behavior, and let's do something about it. And the laboratory experiment worked that day.
I love it. I love the idea of that. And to start to even as you're in the summer, to even go to your kids and say, okay, listen, it seems like you two have a love-hate relationship, and it seems like you're fighting a lot. What would it look like if we set the summer aside to really invest in y'all's relationship? And so we're going to put some goals in place, and you guys decide what the goals are, that we're not going to fight. We're only going to not get along once a day, or we're going to not beat each other up, or if we want to wrestle, we're going to wrestle, but we're not going to get mad at each other when we do that, and get your goals in place. And the other thing you said, Don, which was brilliant, was incentives, to give some rewards. Maybe you make a chart and you say, every time that we fight, we're going to put an X on it. And if we have less than 50 X's at the end of the summer, we'll buy a Lego set or something like that will incentivize them, reward them for choosing to invest positively in the relationship.
Yeah. And another thing that we can do is, put them together with you in certain projects. Suzanne talked about in the last podcast how we did projects with kids, where clean out the closets or change the toys out or whatever, paint a fence or something. When kids have to work together, that's why in the Army they put them in boot camp together, and they have them go through life together, so they experience life together, and it builds a bond. Well, projects during the summer, again, intentional thinking about it. Doesn't have to be a huge project, but maybe it's just a couple of hours of doing something together. You'd be amazed at how they bond together when they have to work together to make something happen. So that's another thing that you can do to build relationships between those difficult sibling relationships.
And I love that with that project. You can take that if they're building anything or creating anything, that creates a unity and a unified interaction with each other that's absolutely beautiful, because it becomes a common goal. And so instead of picking on each other, they're now synced up and unified for the common goal. And so whether that's the project, or it's a Lego set, or it's painting a room, or it's working together in a unified manner to get to the end, to get an end result.
And it's a great opportunity. For example, many times the older sibling is kind of bossy and can be kind of authoritative. Well, that's a great time to sit down and say, okay, we're going to do this project together. I want you to help me. You're going to be kind of like my assistant in charge, but you need to be able to treat your younger sister or brother with respect. And how are you going to help them? They're going to need your help because they don't know how to paint like you do.
Yeah.
And so you instill in them like, oh, wow, I've got a responsibility. I've got to help mom. And so then they go in and but do you like it when I'm bossy with you? Do you like it when I talk down to you and say, and tell you then you don't feel very smart? No, I don't like that. Okay, well, we don't want your sister to feel like that either. So when you're talking to her, let's do it. And you know what? And then you could even say, and hey, sometimes I get like that too. Why don't you help me not be bossy either? And together we'll all work on this project, and it's going to be awesome together. Let's see how much fun we can have with it rather than everybody being mad at each other, okay? And you kind of get them on your team, so to speak.
Yeah, that's good. And so, yeah, I love that. Working together towards a common goal is a great way to break down some of that constant fighting.
And even to finish that, like when the younger sibling is being a brat, he's like, hey, we're all working together on this project. If you want to be a part of this, then you have to act in this way. And that's okay. You can tell them that, and they're like, oh, I need to be a big girl. I'm going to rise up to the standard that my mom and my older sibling are. Because, those younger siblings, they so look up to those older siblings. And so if you can appeal to that in them, they will say, wow, I want to be obedient. I want to be trustworthy, whatever that is.
Yeah, and so, all right, so we've got them set up so they're not going to fight at all. But if by chance, for some reason, they do fight, which reality is they are going to, how do we teach our kids to fight well? And so a couple things that I would encourage you to do is, first of all, to let them fight it out, if you will. Let them get to the resolve as much as they can without you intervening. And if you do intervene, then this is a hack. Both people get in trouble every single time. I mean, we used to say if one's getting a spanking, they're both getting a spanking because they're both at fault to some degree. I have seen so many times the little sibling nag and annoy the big sibling to such a degree that the big sibling just hauls off and hits the little sibling. And then the big sibling gets in trouble. And the little sibling sitting over there with a little smirk on their face like, oh, I got away with murder. And I saw it so many times. I was the little sibling. I saw my big sister get in trouble so many times for things that I did. And so for us, what we did is if one of you gets a spanking, both of you gets a spanking. If one of you gets a timeout, you both do. If one of you gets grounded, both of you get grounded. And that really motivated them to work it out. Because I would say, this is what I would say. I would say, do you guys want to work it out or do you want me to come in and basically distribute consequences? And they'd be like, Mom, we can do it. Or we need your help in this situation. Or she said this. Well, she said this. And I would say, okay, do you want me to be the judge? Because we're all going to get in trouble if I'm the judge.
Yeah, in the same light, a lot of times they're fighting over something, an object, a toy, a game, something, and then you know what? The game or the toy just gets put away because and you're teaching. So in the intentionality of it, you're teaching two concepts that are really important. One of them is in any conflict, there's always shared blame.
Absolutely.
And what you're really teaching a higher concept that really works with all relationships, in that in every conflict, we've done at least, it's very, very rare that in a conflict with anyone, with a sibling, with a parent, with a future spouse, with a friend or whatever, that we would be 100% right and they would be 100% wrong. So we teach them to ask forgiveness and to reconcile their part of it.
That's good.
And that's what happens that's what you're teaching when you punish both of them, because there's consequences for both of them. And when another thing you're teaching is, this is an add-on, not even is that when there is conflict, we lead in reconciliation. And especially the older sibling, we lead in reconciliation. Why? Because we're servants of God. Mm-hmm. And so if there's a conflict, we lead in reconciliation. And the final thing was, I said there'd be two, but there's actually three, is that people are more important than things.
Yeah.
And so you're
so that goes back to the thing, if they're fighting over a thing, take the thing away because people are more important than things.
Yeah. And so as you're doing it, summer's a great time. If you can rethink summer into, it's a laboratory in which our family gets to spend more time together, and we are going to instill values in that time together. Then when you have sibling fightings, you're like, oh, hey, this is an opportunity to instill a value.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh my goodness, they're fighting again.
Yes, that's whereas the conflict is good.
Yeah.
Because you can instill values. That's a good thing. I'm glad you said that. Conflict is good because you can instill values.
It's an opportunity rather than a problem.
Yes, I love it. Another, how do you teach your kids to fight well? Another thing is when your kids say, they made me do it. A great sentence to say is, no, that was your choice. You choose. No one can make you do it. That's your choice, because we want to teach that our kids are not a victim. that they're in charge, that they're in control of themselves and their choices. They took my toy, so I had to hit them. They made me hit them. No, you chose to hit them. You chose to do that. And so if we can open their little eyes to see that they're not, that even though the big brother is bigger and stronger and can do different things to them, their reaction and their response is fully theirs.
Which,
they own that.
You see us talking a lot about older and younger siblings because that's usually the case, unless you have twins or something like that, which has its own, things. But sometimes it's like giving them alternatives. It's not that they never come to you. For example, sometimes an older sibling may very well be bullying the younger sibling. And so it's okay.
Probably is.
And so it's okay for that younger sibling to come appeal to you. And so you need to give them, we don't want them to feel like that they are always oppressed and they can never share a voice, but it's the way they appeal. Do they come, Mom, he's hitting me, and with the tone and all that, but he's like, but if they can come to you and go, hey, Mom, this is happening and I want to know how to help resolve this or whatever. And, can an 8-year-old do that? Absolutely an 8-year-old can do it. Can a 5-year-old do that? Absolutely a 5-year-old can do that if they're taught well how to do it.
Yeah, I love that, to put that word appeal in there, because what that does is it basically erases all things that have been laid out so far. Like if there's rules, regulations, if they're like, if one of you gets in trouble, both of you get in trouble. As soon as they use the magic word, Mom, may I appeal, then now it's like they're not caught up in that conflict mentality or mode. They actually really do want to resolve the conflict. They want to fix that. And so for sure, as parents, we want to partner with them in that, and we want to help them, and we want to bring resolution to the situation.
And this may seem like so out of this world to you. I mean, like, when we start talking about connecting kids together and relationships, I mean, you may, and it's like somebody told me one time, it feels like sometimes I feel like I'm climbing up the ladder, but sometimes I just feel like I'm hanging onto the ladder, trying not to fall off. And so we get that, and we've definitely been in situations like that where two siblings are just at each other.
And I yell, "Stop it right now, you're driving me crazy."
Exactly. and it's so we get that. And if that's where you are, God bless you. We have compassion for that, and we want to say, just try something.
Yeah.
Just take a step and just try one thing, and put them together for a while. Do a little project, whatever it is, and just try. And you know what? If it fails, it's okay. Try again. You got all summer. You got all summer to try things, and so. Please don't hear us that, we've got this magical formula and then next week they're going to be just great. Real change takes time.
Yeah.
And that's why we love the whole summer. But it's a matter of if you can get that reservoir within you from the Lord, the love of God. Romans 15:13 says, that may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. If you can get that reservoir inside you and overflow with that hope for your family, and then just try some things knowing that, some of them may work, some of them may not, but you're going in a direction. And if you keep trying through the summer, you're going to look up at the end, August 15th or 18th or 27th or whenever everything's going back, and you're going to go, wow, this was a good summer. We made some progress in, my 10-year-old and my 7-year-old, they definitely have a stronger bond, and than they did at the beginning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that as you get presented with opportunities to redirect their conflict, I think sometimes, like Don said, you're going to do great, and there's going to be sometimes you're going to get sucked up into it, and sometimes you're going to do it the way you used to do it. But just know that any time you get involved positively and successfully, it's going to make a huge impact on their relationship, and they're going to be connected in a different way, in a stronger way than they were at the beginning of the summer.
And we talked about a lot of the resources at the beginning, but we have a special resource that we're just coming out with. It's a deep dive called Teaching Kids to Fight. And so if you are a part of, you can go to our website and you can see it there. You go to the shop and go under deep dives there. But better still, are you a part of our Playbook parent education system? You can go to our website, sign up, put your email in there. If you're already getting that, then look. Coming out soon on a weekly huddle. is the deep dive on how to teach your kids to fight. And it is amazing. I mean, you'll get some very practical tools on how, that you can use immediately this summer on helping solve that difficult sibling relationship, kid relationship, sibling to them, kid to you, but kid to kid, and check out all of our resources on, our micro book, 5 Keys to Stop Sibling Fighting, the deep dive. Read it through and make a purpose this year that this summer that your kids are going to get along.
You have to go after that, the sibling relationships.
And you'll be really glad you did.
Yeah, so all I have to say is go fight, win.
Yes, go fight. As you teach them how to fight, go fight with your, go fight for the good of your family. So as always, parents, go be crazy this summer, crazygofamily.com.